in your soul, waiting to shine. Pour a cup, lay the cards, let the magic flow. Every path has a meaning, every heart will know. We all have a journey, we all have a light. Through the highs and the lows, it's gonna be alright. At the TarotJo Cafe, let's talk for a while. Sip on some wisdom, leave here with a smile. The world feels lighter when we share our way. So pull up a chair at the TarotJo Cafe.
Hi, I'm Joe, also known as TarotJo in the world of tarot. As a passionate tarot reader, teacher, and author, I've dedicated my life to exploring and sharing the wisdom of tarot and spirituality. Through my books, courses, and workshops, I guide people on their personal and spiritual journeys. I created this podcast as a tribute to tarot and spirituality, a space where we dive into deep and meaningful conversations with well known and emerging voices in the spiritual and tarot communities. Whether you're a seasoned tarot practitioner or just curious about the magic of the cards, this is the place for you. Would you like to be a guest on my podcast? Do you have an inspiring story to share about tarot or spirituality? I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me at info@tarotjo.nl or send me a DM on social media. If you enjoy this podcast, please support me by liking, following, and subscribing on Spotify, YouTube, and all my social media channels. Your support means the world to me. Now, let's dive in today's episode. It's going to be another fascinating conversation. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the TarotJo Cafe. And I've got a very special guest today, the amazing Liz Dean. Liz Dean, welcome to the TarotJo Cafe. Please introduce you. Who are you? What did you do for the tarot world? And whatever you want to give us.
Hi Joe. It's so lovely to be invited into the cafe today. It's very exciting to be here with you. As Joe said, I'm Liz Dean. I describe myself as, I suppose, a tarot reader, tarot author, a diviner, a teacher, and a poet in no particular order. So
Love that. A poet.
tarot has led me in many directions. And I also ghostwrite as well. So for me, it's all about writing and reading cards, writing about cards and other stuff too. So yeah,
Yes, because if you go into a bookstore, you'll find probably a book by Miss Liz Dean, right?
I'm afraid I'm everywhere by now. I mean, my first deck was published in 2001. And you know, when you've written something like that, you think, well, maybe that's it. But then another one came and another one, and then a book idea comes. And I didn't plan to think, right, I'm going to write 25 books in 20 years. That didn't come in as a plan at all. But it's how it evolved. And I think tarot is a journey and it takes you where you need to go. And in my case, it's a very literal journey through the cards and through writing about them. So yeah, my 25th book comes out this year. So it's 25th book in 2025, which is interesting, in September. And that's a book on tarot symbols. But I just keep getting ideas and it feels just like the first idea. You know, I never kind of think, oh, well, I'm a bit bored with that now. It's no, tarot is forever offering something up. I had another idea as I was crossing the road this morning. I thought, how did that happen? It was all about tarot and the body because of a conversation I've been having with a friend. And it's just, it just keeps growing, I
As
guess.
long as you listen to the universe, right?
That's it. Yeah, timing is everything, you
Mm.
know.
So, when did it all start, and how did it all start? Can you take us back with, is it 20 years ago that you've
Oh,
started, or
I
is
wish
it
I
a
could
little
say it
bit
was only
longer?
20. Actually, it is a long time. It's more like 35 years. Yeah.
Wow.
maybe slightly longer than that. I was 21, 22. So yeah, that's more like 38 years. And I just was in that stage of my life, I was in my early 20s. I'd always been fascinated with cards. I'd loved seeing it in film and then, I was the kid that was reading ghost stories at like 9 or 10, like obsessively. Anything to do with ghosts and witches. And that was, it's part of that stage of being a girl at that age too. But that didn't really go away for me. And by my early 20s, I was in a flat chair, and someone I was sharing the flat with had cards, and she had a Toth deck. And while that's never been my deck in terms of, what I connected with later, I'm very grateful to her because she opened up that world for me. She showed me her cards and she let me touch them.
Oh, wow.
She let me lay a spread. And at
Yeah.
that point, something just, a light went on.
Right. And
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 that was it. Yeah.
and what was your first deck? Was it the right away like most people, or was it a different deck that you
At that stage,
purchased?
I didn't even know what the Rider-Waite was. I didn't know that there were hundreds of tarots. I just didn't. This was the late 1980s. In America, maybe there was a lot of decks out there, but in the UK where I was living, I don't remember seeing too much, but I did see one I loved, which is the Sacred Rose. Absolutely gorgeous, but rider-based images. And that was my deck, my go-to deck.
So you've
Then
used that. You used that for a long time too?
I
You
did
stuck
use
to
it for
it?
a long time. I did until I got into Rider-Waite, and I still have my original Sacred Rose,
Wow. Yeah,
30 or
I
7
still have
years
my
old.
first deck too. It's very precious. I mean, I don't have a problem with handing it to people. I don't know about you,
Mm.
but different for every reader, which is fine. But I've read with these cards and with people that are not longer here, so they're kind of precious to me as well. That's why how
Yeah.
it all started. I don't think I will ever get rid of that deck, even though it's getting yellow and the rough edges.
Mine too. It's kind of the cards are a little bit bent as if you've had them in a back pocket for years, but you haven't really. It's just the way
No,
the vinyl's kind of warped over
yes,
time.
it's the way it
But
goes.
um,
Yeah,
but you're right, those decks carry the memory of where you were when you did your first readings. And that
right.
was a friendly deck, so that to me represents the doorway.
Yeah,
It's the doorway into all of this, into all the decks I now have to admit I keep in the huge cabinet of tarot. And I love collecting as well. But I suppose I only read with sort of one or two decks. And
so
then others are just special decks just for me to read
for
with
you,
for meditation or reflection or just for myself or for creative practice as well.
yeah,
Being able to use a deck to inspire you when you need ideas. And so I have decks for different things, I guess. But the
yeah,
Sacred Rose, that's the one in my heart. Yeah.
lovely. So you're a deck collector then too.
A little bit. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not as extreme as some of my tarot colleagues,
Mm. So
but I can,
approximately, roughly, how many decks do you have in this
well, it's
cabinet?
it's into the hundreds.
In hundreds.
Into
Wow.
the early hundreds. So
Yeah.
that's not too bad, is it? But you see, I just can't let go of a deck. Some people can, they use it or they don't connect with it and then they pass it on, and I totally understand that. But
Yeah.
I have a hoarder mentality when it comes to decks that isn't like the rest of my house, strangely enough. And because I always feel the decks come to me for a reason.
Hmm.
And even though I might only use it twice, what happens for me is that 5 or 6 years down the line, I'll open the doors of the cabinet and I'll go to that deck because I need it for that one reading.
Right.
And for that reason, that's why it's allowed to take up room because you never know. And as we change over the years, don't we? And we resonate differently. And there's decks that I was sort of bought 10 years ago that I just went, oh yeah, lovely, thanks, and put it to one side. And then one day I find myself opening up and it's still in the wrapping, thinking, this is what I need. So I like the possibility, the potential of having all these decks
I
around.
love it the way you say like, oh, this reading needs this deck. I really love that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I love seeing what deck producers are doing, and I think it's fantastic that so many people can create via Kickstarter now and can self-publish because that's just added to the richness. of choice
Yeah.
that we've got now. And also you can be part of it if you on this Patreon and all of that now. So you can get really much more involved with artists than we ever could before. And that again, that gives me a deeper sense of connection. If I go to a conference and then the artist is there selling their deck, I'm like, yes, please, every time.
Yeah.
Because that to me, that special reminds me of meeting them.
Yeah.
Like when I met
Well,
Monica Badersky and her decks, and yes, I
my
knew.
deck, of course, the unique tarot deck, and I'm self-published as well, which is quite a journey because I've this was like my first ever. So where do you start? Would you just start, right?
Mm,
Basically.
yeah.
But and nobody's going to tell you what kind of work it is.
Yes. They'll just give you lots of support and go, oh yeah, and you go.
If I would have known, I don't know if I would ever have started it, but now that's there, and I was wondering whether it would resonate with me and I would do the readings, but I would love to do the readings with them, even though I know most of the people that are on the cards, but that just fades away, like,
That's interesting what you've just said though, because that reminds me of, when you're cooking and you make this lovely meal, and sometimes your appetite is gone by the time you put it on the table because you've been too involved.
yeah,
And you can not enjoy something like I find it really hard to read back books that I've written. I find it really hard to do that. So you think, is making my own deck going to disconnect me from it ultimately because you've been involved in every step of the process? But
yes.
actually, it doesn't. I think it creates a relationship that just doesn't change.
The funny thing is, because about 50 people collaborated with this deck, adopted cards, and
Mm.
um, it's funny to see that a lot of people who adopted a certain card has this journey they go through that's connected with this card. Isn't that amazing?
Ah,
That's like so like there's this guy on a card, and he had this whole journey about finding himself, and he's on the swords card, and it's like, yeah, he's really done the fighting, and now he's got this life that's so much better. Isn't that amazing that people just
yeah.
are connected with his energy? Well, just
I
like,
think we know, don't we? We know which symbols and archetypes in the cards
yeah,
we need at any time and which will most express sometimes things that we can't articulate. And
yeah.
that's ultimately what happens in readings.
Mhm.
And for me, that's part of the role is to help articulate some of those energies, feelings, experiences that are close to the surface but not yet articulated or manifest.
Yeah.
But we always know, don't we? We always choose the card.
The cards know so much, and we do too.
Mm.
If we only listen to, like you explained, crossing the street and you got this amazing idea, or you got this like, oh, that'll be great. I have these ideas a lot when I go to a supermarket and just get groceries, and then all of a sudden things pop in my mind.
That's so true because I feel it's because when you're doing something physical, when you're in your body, like, when you're walking or you're washing up, you're in the shower or whatever you're doing, then your intuition can step forward because your logical left brain has got an activity. So it's give your hand something to do or your body a purpose.
Yeah.
And then that right brain, where the intuition or the creativity sits, can be heard without the left brain going, oh, that's just your imagination, or oh, that's a daft idea, or you won't have time for that. All the blocks are dissolved when you're in your body.
Yeah.
And that's why, for me, shuffling is such an important part of card reading as well.
Yeah.
It's not just a quick randomizing of the cards, it's a way of preparing the self, of asking the left brain, that kind of gatekeeper, to stand back so that you, the soul part of you, can kind of be heard and step forward. And I love that idea of just being and shuffling until you sense that shift on the inside. And for me, my body tells me. So there's so much wisdom in the body, isn't it?
Oh,
You know,
amazing. We,
yeah.
we we have so many things we don't know about our body and our brain, and intuition. It's so big.
Mm,
And the more you work with it, the bigger and easier it goes to tap
yeah.
into this, or to like, almost like there's a channel that's open that comes all
Yes.
creative ideas. I have it a lot in the shower, which I'm connected to the Lady of the Lake a
I
lot.
was going to say, do you have a water connection?
Yes, I do.
Because yeah, that's how things can flow for you then. Yeah.
The
Mm.
connection, and then sometimes it just come down, and then all of a sudden I start typing on my computer, to get it out of my system, and then it's there, and then I can let it rest, and then I can
That's
drink
right.
coffee and
You have to download it, don't you? Because I think there's something about water that magnifies
Mm,
what
yeah,
else is going on. I wrote a book a while ago on switch words, which are words that switch on the subconscious mind and help you manifest. And I've done a bit of research with switch words and tarot and aligning these switch words with particular tarot cards. And you can have these small mantras. And I'd often say to clients, like, try this mantra when you're in the shower because it seems to magnify the effect of the chant. And
lovely.
it
So
really works.
can you give an example? What kind of thing you can chant in the shower? Maybe
Mm.
our listeners would really love that and try
Okay,
it.
so here's one that you can do is if you need to solve a problem or find something that you have lost, you chant reach.
Reach.
And you can empower it by saying together. Together is the master switch word, the universal switch word that works for everything. So we tend to put that in switch word phrases. So we'd go
Reach.
reach
Yeah.
together,
Wow.
reach together. And then you just let it rest. And then you'll see in your mind's eye where you left that item, or you'll get that inspiration, that flash, where you'll see what you need to do. And reach is the switch word that I align with the magician card, of course.
Yeah. Reach.
So
Yeah.
it's reach. And if you really want to reach, this is for something that you may have lost outside your home. You can say divine reach together because divine is bring me a miracle. Reach is solve my problem, inspire me. And together is kind of align me to let it happen. Bringing yourself together in mind, body, and spirit so that we can manifest. So it's quite interesting that I like intersections between, like, tarot and switch words, and also tarot and creative practice, and tarot and poetry, because it's all from the same pool for me, that we all have inside us. And it's so rich, it's so abundant. We just need to give ourselves permission to listen to it,
Yeah.
let it lead
Let it
sometimes.
lead. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
So go back to your first book. When did it start? When did it start about, we know about your tarot cards, but then all of a sudden you start writing a book, or how did it start? Can you tell us a
Well,
little bit about the first book
yeah.
you've written?
I wrote my first book in 2003, which is called Understanding Tarot. Um, and luckily, I've had a chance to go back and make revisions to that when it reprinted because instead of 20 years, you learn quite a lot. But I still look back and thought, that's a good, solid little book. That wasn't, it was illustrated. I was working in publishing, in Mind, Body, Spirit Publishing. And it was pure nepotism. I was working with a publisher who loved all this stuff. And I used to read cards for her as well. And she said, "Why don't you write this book?" I mean, I love literature. I got an English degree. My whole thing has been writing and working in publishing. It's you're very adjacent to all of those authors you work with.
Yeah.
And I just leapt at the chance. So I did a deck with her and then I did a book. But then it wasn't really until 2015, 10 years ago, that I wrote The Ultimate Guide to Tarot because I felt I was ready then.
Yeah.
I'd been doing it for long enough and and I felt ready, and that was this book here.
Yeah, that's the one that we can find in most bookstores, can't we?
Yes, it's amazing really because it sold over a third of a million copies.
Wow.
So, and that's over time, because it's with tarot books, it's not like best-selling, commercial fiction when everything's a hit and a bestseller overnight and it's selling millions of copies. Things like, particularly in tarot, crystals or anything in this field, it's often about recommendation
Yeah.
and it's about word of mouth. And then
Yeah.
when people really love it and they share that, that's when your book becomes read, very well read by people. And I love that because it means you get lots of beginners who I now hear, oh, I got your book 5 years ago. That helped me start reading tarot cards.
Isn't that
My first book was from an amazing author called Alfred Douglas, who published a book called just The Tarot in the 1970s. And that was the book that opened the door for me. Someone gifted it to me.
wow?
And I was lucky enough to meet him at the UK Tarot Conference many years later and say thank you.
Yeah,
But everybody needs the door, and it's
yeah,
great to think I might be somebody's door. Even if it's just one person, then that's it, isn't it?
that's
That's all we
lovely.
need. It's
I
not
was,
quantity, really. It's great if you get that readership, but
yeah,
ultimately,
yeah, it
it's
is.
that
I
one
was,
person.
yes. I was quite happy that that my book was sold, the tarot manual, for like 500 copies. I was really thrilled about that. And like you said, to that people inspire, that you can inspire people, and that they say, now I get it. I knew where to start with the tarot.
That's it. And then they start buying other people's books and other decks, and then
Yeah,
they find other teachers.
yeah.
Everyone starts on this path. 500 copies for self-published is really good.
Thank
I
you.
think you should be congratulated on that, because it's,
Thank you.
yeah, and trying to get your work out there, because that's all we're trying to do is communicate about how magical this is. And
Yeah.
it's great to be able to support each other to do that as well, and you've got friends who've got decks coming out, just going, I love this, and just to try and share.
Yeah, well, I started with this book because I didn't want to use anybody else's book when I started teaching.
Yeah.
And as a teacher, a former teacher of English, I thought I have to write my own book. It sounded really normal to write my own book and then to start, my courses with this book.
Of course, if you're an English teacher, you're already a writer, so it's a natural thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in a way, I mean, in a way, it was different because there's a lot of English in English. Actually, my first book was not the tarot manual. It was like a journaling book because everything is in English. So
Yeah.
whenever I gave the homework to my students, like draw day cards, like get acquainted with your deck and stuff like that, they said, "Well, we really want to do this, but we want to write it in a certain book. We want to use journaling, but it's all in English. Maybe you can write something in Dutch." And this is like the first. That was the second book I was writing. It was about journaling.
Mm.
And it was quite funny because I'm a teacher of English and I was writing Dutch books. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Because it was
Yeah.
all in English. There was no
Mm.
translations. So that's what basically happened. So now in Holland, Belgium, people really like my books because there's a lot of English books and
I
not
love
everything
that
is
because,
translated.
I love the idea of saying about translation because for me, like reading tarot cards is an act of translation. We're
Yeah,
translating those symbols, aren't we,
yeah, yeah.
into something that's meaningful, into messages. And
I
so
mean,
you're doing it in language, so
yeah,
as to be able to reach people in the
yeah.
Netherlands. So yeah.
So, and now it's being translated in English again, which is strange how things work, but that's that's a different topic. Um, so that was like one of the first that was like mainstream that people were picking it up. What
Mhm.
happened after people picked it up is like, were you seen like, oh, this is a lady that knows a lot about tarot. Let's invite her to conferences, and how did it go after that?
Yeah, I think what it was that I had a deck out. I think it was my second tarot deck, which is the Golden Tarot. And people found me through the my first deck, the Art of Tarot, and then the Golden Tarot. They seem to find me through that. But it's that synchronicity. I had just discovered Kim Arnold's UK Tarot Conference. I just discovered that it happened. It was a
Did you?
thing.
Did you?
Yeah, in like 2007. And I got really excited about this.
Yeah.
And I booked a ticket to go. And I was like, wow, this is going to be amazing. And then Kim contacted me and said, hey, do you want to be a speaker? And I'm like, oh, I'm already coming. I'm just like, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's also people, conference organizers, people like Kim, and, that do such amazing work to allow us all to develop as well.
Yeah.
It's so inclusive. It's like whatever level you're at, whether you're just starting to publish your first deck, or whether you're thinking about turning professional as a reader, or whether you just want to find out more. You feel like everyone is really treated with such care, and that we're all the same. And then I just kept going back. So I think that's how it started. But I've always loved writing.
Yeah.
So yeah, any opportunity I got to write something, I generally would. And I
Yeah.
was working in publishing and commissioning mind, body, spirit books at the time. So I was commissioning books on crystals and yoga and all the things I liked.
Yeah.
And it was great because I got to meet people like Judy Hall, who is just a wonderful woman. And she sadly passed away now, but to work on some of her books with her was just an honor. And it was just a lovely experience. So I think, and also I was co-editor of Kindred Spirits, a leading spiritual magazine here in the UK. And I met many more people through that. So maybe people just got to sort of see me around. I'm not sure, but I think it happens when it's right,
It's,
when it's the right time.
when it's meant to be, things roll,
Yeah,
right? That's just how it goes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think when you're ready, I know that's a cliche, isn't it? When you're ready, the teacher arrives or the miracle comes but I
Yeah.
know I'm doing things now that I wasn't ready for 10 years ago.
But still,
So, yeah.
it's good just to start. I mean, some people ask me, how did you start? Just start. Like get your laptop out and just start
Yeah.
doing it. And then you can figure out, how am I going to publish this? How am I going to do this? I mean, I'm self-published, you're connected to a publisher.
Mhm.
Everything's fine. I mean, if you want, you will find the publisher. And if you can't find one, just publish it yourself.
It's just working with what you have at the time because when I was started in 2001, there wasn't anyone self-publishing. That wasn't an option.
No.
So it's about what becomes available to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the other thing I think is not to be worried or compare yourself to what anyone else is doing, because that's the biggest kind of thing that can block creativity. Yeah, but mine won't be good enough, and what? But so and so's done that, and what about, it's and that kind of drive to perfectionism that if I do it, it has to be absolutely perfect. And everything is a learning curve.
Yeah.
You have to allow yourself to fail sometimes and go, oh, well, I could have done that better, or how else do we learn? Yeah.
First attempt in learning, is that's what fail is about, I always say.
Yeah,
Don't
and,
be
and
too
I
scared.
think you're right. It's just to have a go.
Yeah.
And because it's your voice, and that's what makes it special. Even if
Yes.
it is, and then people go, oh, another book on this, and be like, yeah, but it's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And that's so legitimate.
Yeah.
And I say that to other people who ask me about, oh, how do I get started? Or I'm thinking of doing a deck. I said, this is yours, and that's what makes you special and this unique. So,
Yeah.
and you don't get too wrapped up in what other people are doing.
No. No, it's the critical voice inside of you that stops a lot of people from doing it. And thank God I'm very good in, pushing that voice away. Everybody's got this voice, right? Did you ever have this voice?
All the time. I've had imposter syndrome since I was 21 when I was 18 when I went to university and I was convinced that they couldn't have got me on that list. I thought, why am I still here 2 months later? I actually think I just couldn't believe that I got there.
Yeah.
So and so I still have a touch of that. And I think particularly women, I think we have this.
Yeah, we do.
Because
Yeah.
it's like, how do we step into our power without it perhaps appearing arrogant or wrong or it's we're always looking, we need role models of people that are comfortable in their self-empowerment. Because
Beautifully
but
said.
I think we all have a touch of that
I
imposter
believe there's
syndrome.
room for everybody. I mean,
Yeah,
people will be attracted to your energy, people will be attracted to my energy, which
that's
is all
it.
fine. I mean,
Everyone will
there's
find the right
room.
people.
I don't
Mm.
see competition. I see like there's room for everybody, and I always look. I don't know about you, but whenever I'm listening to a talk, like that's interesting, I'll just keep that in mind. And oh, I've learned that, and I'm bringing that to my tarot experience. You always add something. There's not like, oh, I don't want to listen to that person because you got it all wrong. I don't have this. What about you?
No. I don't. I just like to be open to whatever comes along. And I like that synchronicity of stumbling on podcasts and books
Yeah,
that we're not necessarily looking for, but we're just in that space of allowing.
yeah,
And then we'll say, oh, that's what I need to see next,
yes, yeah,
And yeah, you're right. It is just having that being open
yeah,
to possibility.
exactly.
A friend of mine used to say, and it's a really nice saying this. She just said what she asks for is for her spirit guides to position her so she can make the most of any opportunity coming her way. So
Yeah,
it's
lovely.
asking to be positioned, not asking for the thing.
No,
It's saying, position me so that I can see it. And
yeah,
that makes such sense to me all these years later,
yeah,
because sometimes we need to be in a certain place or mental space, and sometimes we need to be settled or quiet in that space. And there's another quotation from the woman who wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves, Clarissa Pinquez, I think she's called, which says, if when we are still, the spirit can find us.
exactly. You
Such a,
can't.
small phrase, but that also stays with me when you can get into that
Very
running
true.
around and feeling you've got to do everything right and you have to do everything on your list and yeah, sometimes we what happens if we don't, if we just because that's a risk, isn't it, staying still because it can feel uncomfortable if we're not used to it.
Then you have to really listen to your inner voice. I mean,
That's right, and keep and stay connected.
stay
Yeah.
connected and just
Mm.
find, you can't hear anything from the universe if you're running around, I always say.
Yes, that's yeah. If you're running too
Impossible.
fast,
It's
you can't hear it.
impossible.
Yeah.
That's why meditation and doing spiritual work, whether it's Reiki or tarot, it brings you back to this quiet place that we all need.
Yeah, the core of the self. Yeah.
Exactly. So, of all the books that you've written, 25, you said,
Mhm.
which is your pride and joy that you was like, if I have to pick one, or is that impossible
Oh,
for a writer?
um, I feel it's going to be the one that's coming out this year. I feel really attached to that, but it hasn't been printed yet, so I can't show you. But
Can you tell us a
um,
little bit about it? What is it about?
well, for me, it's the follow-on to this book.
Mm-hmm.
So same publisher who are great, Fair Winds in the US. Um, and what it does, it goes deeper into all the symbols on the cards. So it annotates all the cards enlarged with all their symbols. And then I talk about the symbols. And then you can use it as a kind of bit of bibliomancy. So you can flick through it and then see which symbol calls you, and that will give you a reading as well. But ultimately, it is, yeah, it's a book on tarot symbols. Lots of them. I
Lovely.
think there's over 250 just on the Rider-Waite Smith.
Wow. Does it have a name that you can tell us
Yes,
already?
it's a very straightforward name. It's called the Big Book of Tarot Symbols.
Very
That's it.
clear. Very
It
clear.
is
I like
very
that.
clear. It's big. It's bold. It's like,
Yeah.
and that's something that because having been doing a lot more teaching over the last year, I think that's something that students will really appreciate being able to look at, all of the symbols on a card and have it explained.
Yeah.
And just also to see that they can react to a symbol. You don't have to know the whole meaning of a card, and that's what blocks people. It's like, how am I going to learn 78 cards? It's like, no, you just start with one
Yeah.
and just see where that takes you.
Yeah. I
Yeah, and
agree.
then pick a symbol on that card that you feel something about and
Yeah.
see where that takes you.
What does it mean to you and how do you feel about this? I mean, it's not like one specific thing. It can be a lots of meanings to symbols.
That's it. And those symbols come alive in context, in the
Exactly.
present moment, which of
Exactly.
course is why, we're not going to give the same interpretation for, say, the Empress card for every person we're reading for.
No.
Because that's going to change according to the symbols that are calling to us, their energy, my energy, the universe, all of those things that come in the mix. So
Yes.
that's what's exciting. So I'm learning a lot through the people that I'm working with. So
Yeah,
it's
isn't it? If
been
you
very
write a
pleasing.
book, then you learn a lot too. It's like a
Yes.
journey of experiences and insights, and it's really amazing if you write people think if you're a writer then you know it all, but it's like a
No,
journey towards,
you
figuring
can
it
find out what you don't know quite quickly,
exactly.
or what you think you know. But that's also part of you, your higher self going, actually, this is what you're reaching towards.
Yes.
So take the fool's leap
Yep.
and go there. Find
Yeah.
out about this thing that intrigues you. Research it, write about it. Because if you are feeling that calling towards it, then there are going to be other people that need you to give it to them somehow, to offer that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when I was writing Discover Your Tarot Soul Journey, like and there were more things coming, and there was a book, very old book that I got to read, and I wanted to integrate a little bit of that and put my own thing to it, and it never stops if you're really creating, does it?
No.
Keeps on going and going and going and going, and in the end I was like, if I want to put everything of this book, then it's going to be so huge. And then it almost blocked me. Like, I can't write a book that's going to be so huge and so many pages. And then I figured, okay, I'll make a homepage, like I make pages online so people can read
Mhm.
that. So that's how I came across it. I don't know if you've come to any blockages while writing books, like I can't put this in or can't put that in. Did you ever experience that while writing a book?
Um, I think the blockage that I've had one time was because of the deadline. And when you're working with traditional publishers, obviously you have to respect their deadlines. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you are writing about 78 cards in detail, there's a part of you that gets kind of semi-exhausted about halfway through because you're in a routine. You know you have to write a certain number of cards per week. And sometimes you just have to respect your own flow and go, if I'm feeling blocked, I have to walk away from this rather than make myself sit and do it, even though you can. Writing's also a discipline. If we all waited for the muse to turn up, there'd be no books on the bookshelves, basically.
No. No.
There's a certain level of we need to do this, we have to get this out. But yeah, sometimes it can get overwhelming, especially if you're on a big book, big body of work that you want to put out there. But as ever, it's just usually for me, I think it's about breaking it down into little pieces and just
Yeah.
saying, what can I do for today on this, and not thinking too much about the bigger picture, which is what we do in a tarot reading, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even if you put your Celtic cross down, and sometimes it can be quite confronting. You think, oh God, those cards feel really heavy. It's almost like they're coming towards you,
Yeah.
when you're doing a reading. But then the minute you just follow your knowing and you start with that one card, and then you open up the conversation and it begins to flow, it's fine.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine who actually I do singing with now and again, she's actually a teacher, she's brilliant. And she's a songwriter, and she said what she does, she goes, if you ever feel a bit blocked, she goes, I put the alarm on my watch, um, and I say, I'll do it, but just for 20 minutes. So whatever it is, whatever you're blocked on when you're writing. And I thought, how brilliant. So I tried it. And of course, 10 minutes to start with are excruciating. And then when the alarm goes off, you don't hear it because you're back in the flow again.
Yeah.
So it's having to trust
Great
yourself,
tip.
isn't it?
Great tip.
That you will get through it. But those little tips like that really help me because I've been freelance for over 20 years now. So we have to make our own routines. We have to create our own flow. And sometimes that's not always easy. We live our lives as well. So for me, when there is no flow, I get is to create little rituals that help me. So I might do 3 minutes breathing, 3 minutes gratitude, 3 minutes manifesting, then maybe a three card reading to start the day. I'll find a way to begin the day that helps that energy come so that I don't get blocked on things. Does that kind of sound reasonable?
It
Yeah.
does. It does. Like,
Yeah.
you really have to put in the work. It's not like it's going automatically. That's not how it
Mm.
works.
Yeah.
But sometimes a little push here and there, that really helps.
Yeah.
That really
Yeah.
helped.
I mean, how is it when you're publishing for yourself? Because you're the one that sets the deadline. So you don't have a publisher sort of saying we need
No,
to deliver by this time. So you're your own publisher in that sense, aren't you?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you manage the deadline when it you know that you could change it?
I had a great group of people who really wanted to learn new things. And whenever
Mm.
something got finished off and they say, right, what's the next bit? And I had no idea. And or sometimes I had an idea like, oh, I'm going to do something with numerology. Oh, great. Where can we start? When can we start? And didn't write the book yet. So I was starting to write the book and made sure that whenever the first date of the course was there, I had a little bit ready. And I always told them like, you're my group, you're my test group. So when then I had and they had enough for for the 1 or 2 nights to do the course, and then I was in the meantime I was writing again for the next and the next. So whenever then it was like tarot and numerology, and then it's like, great, what's next, Joe? Let's do astrology, tarot and astrology. As I was writing for them, and by the end of the course usually the book was ready, so I could hand them the book instead of loose pieces of paper. So
Yeah.
this helped me a lot in creating 7 books in 4 years.
Right. Having people to write for. Yeah.
Yes. and
Yes.
and sometimes the courses were already there in progress, and I didn't even finish the book, and sometimes I had no idea, but I knew that they wanted me to have it ready. So, and somehow it just happened. It just happened. And sometimes it was printed on the day, just an hour before they came in, and then it was
In the
ready.
nick of
So,
time. Yeah.
so that really helped me in like pushing it forward. And sometimes it was like with my autobiography, like you want to call it, the how my passion found my life.
Hmm.
Um,
Nice.
that really had to be ready. And this was like, because you're keep on, like repeating the things in your life, which is not always pleasant. You wanted to have it over and done with, like, right, you just, write it and then it's done.
Hmm.
Um, and that was the end was pretty like, oh, I really have to write another chapter, and I really have to make like, I had these loose chapters which I didn't know how to work with. And then I asked my guides and angels like, help me. I have no idea how am I going to put this together. And then I had this vision, put them in a tarot cards, make them like chapters of tarot cards,
Yes.
link them to tarot cards. So, and then I was like, right, I have to get this over and done with. So then I, made sure that things were finished. But the last bits, I don't know about you, but the last bits, they're always the hardest, aren't they?
Mm.
The last really, the kind of things. And, the, I did everything myself. Also the design
The
and
cover.
everything,
Wow. Yeah.
everything. Because if you're self-published, I mean, I can't hire anybody, to do this for me. And I
Mm.
felt like I want to put my soul into this because for me, it's my story. So I have
Yes.
so I did everything I did myself, all of my books, all of my cards, all of the everything, which means
Wow.
sometimes frustrating because you have to figure out how am I going to do this? I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
But thankfully I have a very patient wife who was like, you manage. She always like, you
This is
get it
the
together.
thing that we forget when we're doing something like that, don't we? That in the past you've always managed.
Yeah.
You've always done it. But we seem to inconveniently forget that when we're in the middle of the next project, thinking,
Yeah.
how am I going to work this bit out? Because this chapter isn't going to sit with that. That can't be that long because I now want to talk about this. So,
Yeah.
the structure you begin with becomes fluid, but it's that self-trust. Say that I've done it before. I can do it again. But because it's hard to think in those terms with that overview because you're so into the detail.
Yeah.
You're right into, I'm really worried about the way that card looks on the front cover. because that could be interpreted like that if it's next to, you're getting into that detail and you forget that
Yeah.
you've done it before.
Hmm.
We've all done
Exactly.
all of it before at some level. Yeah.
Isn't it great that you have someone next to you who says, "Well, you've done it before. You figure it out." And sometimes I
Yeah.
think, well, that's easier said than done, but it's really comforting that this person has every bit of trust in you. Like it's going to be sorted.
It's just to remind you who you are in it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and having that voice that, hasn't been involved in it really to go,
Yeah.
oh yeah, but yeah, you've done this about 19 other times, haven't you? Oh,
Yeah,
but that's
exactly.
because every time we don't get jaded with it, and every time we do it, it feels like it's a new thing, and then it's a
Exactly.
new problem. So sometimes it's an old problem with just new clothes on it.
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
Um, so you still do tarot readings for people, right?
Yes, yes,
So what
yeah.
is your go-to spread, or do you have any other method that you use to read the tarot cards for someone?
Mm, I tend to do pretty much free flow. I often start with three cards with an overseeing cards with a significator sometimes, and then after that I just see what the cards do.
Right.
But yeah, I read a lot and I read online all the time.
Yeah.
So it's very rare I do an in-person reading. So it's quite a treat if anyone says, "Oh, I'll come round." I'm like, okay. It means I have to tidy the house. So I say, "Can we keep it online?" But no, seriously though, yeah, I tend just to work. And I mean, I like keeping it simple. I mean, yeah, I do a Celtic cross here and there, but there are so many great variations on your standard three cards
Oh yeah.
that and then when you start getting information through, it just flows. And then sometimes you're off the cards after a certain amount of time anyway, because something else is opening up. And of
Yeah.
course, it's different depending on the person, doesn't it?
It
What
is.
kind of reading it is. Some readings you feel like you're very much on the cards for that person. Other people, I realize I've been in a reading for 40 minutes and I haven't actually dealt any cards
No.
because it's already there.
Yeah.
So, it's we have the inner tarot, don't we? We know what's going, and I get to the point where I don't know about you, where I see the archetypes. And when I'm teaching, I don't have to see any cards because they're
No.
so embedded, they're so integrated, they're already there. So
Yeah, I call them energetically, the energetically cards that's already there, but I don't really need to use cards. It,
yeah,
it's not like, oh, I'm so great or something. It's nothing to do with that. It's just like whenever people are when you do a tarot reading, then you already know things without throwing any cards on the table. It's just like it just starts. I mean, I always say, like, if people want to have a reading and you're at a party, oh, I didn't bring my cards, it's a good excuse, but you can actually read
you can
people.
do it anyway. That's very true. But it's funny if you end up doing it in public, though. With like in the corner of a restaurant, there'll be a friend who go, "Oh, did you bring your cards?" And you start reading in the corner of the restaurant, and then once the waiter comes over, and then he wants some cards, and then we get some free limoncellos, and then his
Free
mate, the other
limoncellos.
waiter comes over and wants them. Then we had some free coffee, and then it just went on. And I thought, if you start, be prepared that it may not, it may go. It may involve free drinks. It may
Yes.
involve conversations with other people. So, but of course, it struck me, particularly going to read a studio in America a few times, that culturally, some places are not accepting at all of reading in public or at parties.
No.
Um, and it's very much frowned on. Whereas, when I lived in London and where I live now, I could go into a cafe and I could get my cards out and I'd feel very safe and comfortable doing so, but not in certain countries and places.
Yeah.
It could actually be quite dangerous. And I remember going to a reader studio where there were some people coming in that were trying to get into the conference that were not invited. And I think they obviously had a religious agenda. And the staff were brilliant at it's sort of saying, no, it's not appropriate for you to come here. And I did think, wow, I take that for granted all the time that I can just sling cards here, there, and everywhere. But
Yeah.
not everyone can, and not all places. So it's
That's
something that
true.
we're lucky to have. Yeah, we're lucky to have here.
Thank God we can do this in Australia because we will see each other in a few weeks.
Yes.
again, because we've seen each other in London,
That's it.
and then we'll take it to Australia. When are you going there? What are you going to do there? Tell us all about it.
Well, we have 3, 4 days before the conference starts. We want to go to an island called Rottnest Island to see these little creatures. And I know I'm going to mispronounce the name. They're like baby marsupials, and I think they're called quackers or
Quackers, yes.
quackers. Yeah, I think it's
Quackers.
Quaka or something, maybe with an R somewhere. And I've been desperate to see these because Joe told me about them years ago. So we want to go to this island on one of the days. And then obviously we'll have the conference, which will be amazing. And then we're going to go to Margaret River and explore around there, around the vineyards. And then after that, we're going to go to Bali. So
Okay.
that should be fun. And then back to Perth and then do something else for a bit. So we've given ourselves nearly 4 weeks
Wow.
because it's such a great, amazing opportunity. I just wanted to
Isn't
take
it?
as much time there as possible. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to visit Rottnest Island too. It's actually named by a Dutch explorer. It's
Is it?
it is. He named it Rat Nest Island because they thought the quackers were rats and they didn't think it was worth exploring, so they left. There
Oh.
there's a plaque there that reminds of it. And I told Joe, and she was like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, my ancestors visited already. I thought they were big fat rats, so they left again."
Well, that's hilarious because I did think Rottnest didn't sound particularly appealing. I thought that's an odd
Oh,
name. Now that makes sense why they
that
thought
nest
they.
is even worse than
Yes,
probably.
it's exactly. So I'm very excited about seeing the
Yes,
quackers, quack,
quackers, quackers.
quackers,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
and everything else that Australia has to offer, of
Oh,
course, including
yes. Yes,
sunshine
I
and
love I love Australia. I've never been
yeah,
to the part of Perth, so that'll be new for me. So,
yeah.
but we'll do some exploring as well. And so the conference, can you give us a little bit of a thing that you're going to do at the conference? What are you going to talk about? What are you going to teach?
Right. Well, I'm going to be talking about the High Priestess for workshop one. So that's going to be really exciting because we're going to be looking at portals and gateways through that. So it's going to be involve a meditative experience and of course a spread because I can't do a workshop without a spread.
No, no,
Um,
you
and the
can't.
second workshop, we're going to be looking at one of my favorite subjects that I feature in my last book, Tarot by Numbers. So it's going to be looking at tarot and using the numbers on your cards to access their deeper meaning. So I've got a whole theory of how the minor arcana map onto the major arcana. Which is great for advanced practitioners, but also it's a really great way for beginners to get through the minors and see what the major energy is underneath a reading. Because that's again through students, and they go, but I've got all these minor arcana cards and I don't know what to do with them. And I think, well, okay, well, let's see how we can access the major energy that's running through this spread. So that will be the technique I'm teaching on Sunday. So can I
Lovely.
ask you about yours, Joe, or is that a secret?
Well, what I'm going to do.
Yes,
Of course, I'm going to talk about my sixth book, Discover Your Terra Soul Journey, which will be a bit boring for you because you already know your soul journey, right? Which one is it?
yes.
Do you want to
I'm a
reveal that?
6. I'm a
Your
number
six,
6.
your
Yeah.
lovers,
Yes, lovers and devil. Yeah.
lovers and devil. Um, what a contradiction, huh? Lovers,
Yeah, I know. I love that.
but they're very similar as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to talk about Discover Your Terra Soul Journey. I will teach them like what's your soul number, why are you here, what's connected, which card are you connected to in this life.
Mhm.
That's what of course I'm going to do spread. I can't do anything without it. That's new, completely new, because the one in London, that was felt like that's the energy of London, and this was
Yes.
when I created it, this was the energy of Australia. So it's going to be a different spread. And we're probably going to do tarot dating as well because that's the thing for me,
Yeah.
like Connecting people, that's really,
That's
really one
it.
part of my soul journey, to connect
Mm.
people and to inspire people. So I definitely going to do that. And I'm going to talk about my seventh book about passion, how to find your passion and to find the passion in combination with the tarot. So that's the thing I want to give away, and the rest you just have to wait. Wait and see. Wait and see.
That's so
Um,
fantastic.
we would really like you to throw some cards for our
Mm.
listeners if you're up for it, Miss Liz Dean. Are you?
Let's do it. What should we ask? I'm starting to shuffle now.
Um, just see what intuitively will come
What
up.
comes up? Okay. So I'm using my Game of Thrones deck. So let's see where we go with that. Okay. All right. This is great. So we've got Nine of Coins, Nine
Right.
of Pentacles. So I love that feeling of kind of earthiness and luxury and feeling really at home with ourselves. So it's a card of self-appreciation ultimately here, but I like to read them together. There's two with Daenerys Targaryen on. The other one, Two of Spears, travel, planning, vision, portal. So maybe this is our trip to Australia. It's coming up. And the promise of abundance and
Hmm,
homecoming. For
like
me, it
that.
feels like a homecoming going there. I
Yeah.
felt so at home when I was there before. Also because I met a lot of people with Scottish and Irish ancestry
Okay.
when I was in Perth, and I'm Scottish Irish ancestry as well. So maybe there was a kind of connection there.
That's the connection. Yeah,
But I
that's
love
the soul
this.
connection.
Knight of Spears, the third card. So this is saying there's going to be some really hot, fast, amazing energy. So,
Hot it will
so
be. Hot it will be. I don't know about what's the weather like where you are, but here it's cold and
oh,
wet.
it's cold. It's cold, and we're only just getting some spring light. So I think for me that, and I like with the Two of Spears, we've got one of Daenerys's dragons here. And so for me, this card's also about envisaging magic. Yeah, so we're going from the earthly, which we have with the Nine of Coins, and saying, okay, maybe it's time, like you've achieved a certain amount of things here. You can be pleased with what you have. And again, self-appreciation, self-protection, all of the loveliness that that brings. But this is with a nine. She knows it's just for a certain period of time. A bird is hooded. That's saying, okay, I know I'm clipping my own wings. That's for a reason. I need to conserve my energy because look, here's the magic. I'm allowing this magic back in. And as soon as you do that, wow,
There we
Knight
go.
of Spears, all systems go.
There we
Yeah, so it's
go.
runaway horse, nearly. Well, there is somebody on it, but that horses are galloping. So yeah, don't hold
Great.
yourself back. So that's what
No,
I'd say about those.
we shouldn't hold ourselves back. The
No.
universe, the world is counting on us,
Mm,
right?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
We can talk for hours, especially when it's about tarot, can't we, Liz?
I know. We've only just begun. We have to continue in Australia.
We will, we will. Any parting words from you to our listeners? Anything you still want to share?
Well, I'm just really honored to be here and for those who are listening. And just to say that, if you're drawn to any parts of the conversation that Joe and I have had today, take note of that. Take note of what you're noticing and what we've been talking about, because that often means it's important for you. So there might be one or two things that we've discussed that may have really sort of sat well with you and resonated. You've thought, aha, just, treasure that little aha moment. Maybe write it down. Think about it because there's something there for you and your journey going forward.
Lovely. I like that. Thank you so much, Liz Dean, for being with us, sharing your insights about the tarot and having a look at your special tarot world, like we call it. And I can't wait to meet you in a few weeks in Australia and talk some more about the tarot. But we can talk for hours, right? We can talk for hours. When we're starting, it's like never ending story. And there's always something to discuss and there's always something to learn from each other, right?
Yeah, that's true every time.
Every time. If you want to get in touch with Liz Dean, there's links under this video. You can get in touch with her, whether it's about the books or just walk into a random bookstore and find Liz's book. And the new book is coming out when? Do you know when?
September the 9th for the new.
September the 9th, just
Yeah.
one day before my birthday. That's a
I'll have to get
brilliant
you.
date. I can remember that. Thank you again and have a great day. And I'll see you in Australia.
Okay. Thank you, Jo.
Bye.
Bye.
Take a seat, take a breath, let your heart unwind. There's a story in your soul waiting to shine. Pour a cup, lay the cards, let the magic flow. Every path has a meaning, every heart will know. We all have a journey, we all have a light. Through the highs and the lows, it's gonna be alright. At the TarotJo Cafe, let's talk for a while. Sip on some wisdom, leave here with a smile. The world feels lighter when we share our way. So pull up a chair at the TarotJo Cafe. She's a dreamer, a healer, a seeker, a friend. Every story has a lesson, a love with no end. In the shuffle of life, we find what is true. Spirit's been waiting, just calling to you. We all have a journey, we all have a light. Through the whispers of fate, we'll find it tonight. At the TarotJo Cafe, let's talk for a while. Sip on some wisdom, leave here with a smile. The world feels lighter when we share our way. So pull up a chair at the TarotJo Cafe. Through laughter and lessons,